When Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban married, the world believed they were witnessing one of Hollywood's great love stories, a match made in heaven between two Australian icons. She was the elegant Oscar-winning actress with timeless grace. He, the country music superstar with charm and charisma. Together, they seemed untouchable, the perfect blend of glamour, talent, and devotion. But behind the smiles and red carpet moments, the truth was far more complicated. Now, shocking reports have surfaced that their $325 million prenuptial agreement contained an extraordinary detail, what insiders are calling a cocaine clause. According to sources close to the couple, this clause was allegedly inserted to protect Nicole's vast fortune and emotional well-being, following concerns about Keith's past struggles with addiction. It was a condition that if he ever relapsed, the financial consequences could be devastating. And it may have been the silent storm that lingered over their marriage for years. As the public speculates, many are asking the same questions. Why was such a clause necessary? Did it reflect foresight or a lack of trust? And how did this hidden detail ultimately shape the rise and fall of their seemingly perfect union? This is the untold story of Nicole Kidman's $325 million marriage, a love story tested by fame, addiction, and the haunting truth behind the cocaine clause. When Nicole Kidman first met Keith Urban at the 2005 G-Day USA Gala in Los Angeles, sparks flew instantly. Both were international icons, proud Australians who had conquered Hollywood and Nashville. To the public, it seemed like destiny. Nicole, fresh from the emotional wreckage of her high-profile divorce from Tom Cruise, found in Keith a man who seemed grounded, tender, and genuinely understanding of her desire for stability. Keith, on the other hand, was instantly captivated by her elegance and grace. He would later admit that he knew she was the one from the moment they met. Their whirlwind romance moved quickly. By June 2006, they were married in a stunning ceremony in Sydney, surrounded by friends, family, and flashes of paparazzi. But even as they exchanged vows, those closest to them knew there was an unspoken concern: Keith's history with addiction. Before fame, Keith had battled cocaine and alcohol dependency, a struggle that nearly destroyed his early career. Though he had turned his life around, the temptation of fame's darker edges still lingered. Nicole, cautious from past heartbreaks, wanted to protect not only her emotional safety, but also her financial stability. At the time of their marriage, her net worth exceeded $300 million, largely from her long career in film and lucrative brand partnerships. Keith, while successful in country music, had only a fraction of that. As a result, legal advisors on Nicole's side proposed a prenuptial agreement, one that included a special clause addressing Keith's past substance abuse. Insiders claim that this clause, now infamously dubbed the cocaine clause, stated that if Keith ever relapsed into substance abuse, he would forfeit a significant portion of the financial benefits tied to their marriage. The clause wasn't meant as a punishment, it was meant as protection. Nicole wanted to believe in their love, but she also knew how fragile trust could be in the spotlight. While some saw the clause as pragmatic, others felt it cast a shadow of doubt before the marriage even began. Yet, despite the whispers, Nicole and Keith's early years together were filled with affection. They appeared arm in arm at red carpet events, supporting each other's projects and blending their families with warmth and devotion. When Keith checked into rehab just months after their wedding, Nicole stood by him, visiting daily and sending letters of encouragement. To the world, it looked like the clause had been a precaution, one that wouldn't define them. But behind closed doors, the strain was real. Keith's battle with addiction resurfaced intermittently, and while he continued to fight, it weighed heavily on Nicole. She feared for his health, their marriage, and their children's future. The love was undeniable, but so were the scars of mistrust, exhaustion, and fear. Their story was no longer just about passion. It was about endurance. What began as a fairy tale had already started showing cracks, and the cocaine clause, once a private legal safeguard, loomed like a ghost over their relationship. quietly reminding them that even the strongest love can falter under the weight of human weakness. As their marriage deepened, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's love became both their greatest joy and their greatest test. By the second year, the world still viewed them as a picture-perfect couple, smiling at award shows, sharing heartfelt interviews, and raising two beautiful daughters. But behind that flawless image, the cocaine clause was already shaping the course of their relationship in ways few could imagine. Legal experts close to the couple have revealed that the clause wasn't just symbolic, it carried serious financial and emotional consequences. The terms were reportedly strict. If Keith were to relapse into substance abuse, he would forfeit millions of dollars in spousal support and shared assets. The idea was simple: to encourage accountability and to protect Nicole's empire, which at that time was estimated to be worth over $325 million. Yet for Keith, the clause became a haunting reminder that one mistake could cost him not only his marriage, but his dignity. While Nicole's intentions were rooted in love and protection, the very existence of the clause created invisible tension. Every tour Keith embarked on, every long night in the studio, every social event involving alcohol became a silent test. Nicole trusted him, but the clause made it clear that full trust had not yet been restored. She wanted to believe in his recovery, yet the contract served as an emotional barrier between them, a constant reminder of his past demons. In private, Keith often spoke about the immense pressure he felt to live up to both his wife's expectations and the image the public adored. He admired Nicole's strength, but sometimes felt overshadowed by her immense success. Friends close to the couple noted that Keith's insecurity about his worth compared to Nicole's fame and wealth often fueled their disagreements. It wasn't just about money. It was about identity and pride. Despite the tension, Nicole and Keith did their best to nurture their marriage. They sought therapy, focused on family, and publicly stood by each other through every challenge. But the cocaine clause wasn't something that could simply disappear. Whenever Keith's career took him away for long stretches, the whispers in tabloids returned, speculations about his sobriety, about the trust between them, and about whether their marriage was built on love or legal boundaries. At one point, an insider claimed that Keith found the clause demeaning, believing it reduced his worth to a condition, one that made him feel constantly watched. For Nicole, it wasn't about control, but self-preservation. She had seen what unchecked fame and emotional dependency could do. Having endured the painful breakdown of her marriage with Tom Cruise, she refused to repeat that history. Still, the strain was undeniable. Every time Keith faltered or rumors circulated about his behavior, the clause would resurface in arguments, tearing open old wounds. The love between them was real, but so was the unspoken resentment that came from living under the weight of legal and emotional conditions. By the late 2010s, cracks began to widen. Nicole started focusing more on her film career and philanthropic efforts, while Keith dove deeper into his music, touring across continents. The distance between them was both literal and emotional. Friends began to notice that their once playful chemistry had turned into cautious politeness, a relationship more about managing appearances than enjoying companionship. The cocaine clause had done its job. It protected Nicole's fortune, but it also became a symbol of the very mistrust and fear that love was supposed to heal. What began as a promise of safety slowly evolved into a wall that neither could fully tear down. And though they smiled for cameras, those closest to the couple could sense the truth. The contract may have protected their assets, but it couldn't protect their hearts. By the time Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban reached the later years of their marriage, their love story had turned into something much heavier, an ongoing battle between affection and exhaustion. What began as two souls healing each other had slowly become a union held together by routine, loyalty, and the remnants of what once was. Behind closed doors, the tension had become impossible to ignore, and the cocaine clause, originally meant to bring peace of mind, had evolved into a silent divider between them. Keith's touring schedule continued to take him away from home for long stretches, and with every trip, Nicole's anxiety resurfaced. She trusted him, but the trauma of past betrayals, both in her life and from what fame had taught her, haunted her. Each missed call, each late-night performance, and each rumor of indulgence in backstage parties triggered the same thought. What if the clause is tested again? Keith, on the other hand, felt suffocated by the constant pressure to prove his worth. Though he had remained sober for years, the weight of knowing his marriage was legally tethered to his sobriety gnawed at him. In interviews, he subtly expressed the feeling of being misunderstood, saying that sometimes people forget that recovery is a lifetime journey, not a moment. It was a statement that hinted at the struggle within, even as he smiled for cameras and accepted awards. The breaking point came when the couple reportedly faced a serious argument over Keith's lifestyle on tour. Nicole, already juggling a demanding filming schedule, confronted him about his growing distance. The conversation escalated, old wounds reopened, and for the first time, the word divorce was said aloud. Not in anger, but in exhaustion. They both knew that love alone could not heal the emotional distance or the weight of mistrust that the clause had symbolized for years. As insiders have since revealed, the decision to part ways wasn't about money. It was about peace. Nicole wanted stability and emotional security, something she could no longer find in a relationship clouded by legal protection and painful memories. Keith, though heartbroken, understood. He loved her deeply, but could no longer bear the emotional burden of being constantly monitored for perfection. The cocaine clause became the final straw. What was meant to safeguard their future had become a symbol of everything that had gone wrong, a reminder of fear instead of faith. When Nicole finally decided to file for divorce, it was said to be handled quietly, discreetly, and with immense care. There were no public accusations, no dramatic courtroom scenes. Both had too much respect for each other to let their private pain become public spectacle. But the financial terms were staggering. Sources close to the couple revealed that their divorce settlement was estimated at around $325 million, one of the largest in Hollywood history. While Nicole retained the majority of her fortune, she ensured that Keith received a generous settlement, proof that, despite everything, she wanted to part ways with kindness. When the news eventually broke, fans were stunned. The media spun countless theories. Some blamed fame, others pointed to Keith's touring lifestyle, and some even suggested that the clause had caused irreparable damage from the start. But to those who knew them best, the truth was simpler and far more human. Nicole and Keith loved each other. But love wasn't enough to fix what had quietly broken years before. Their separation was not explosive. It was silent, bittersweet, and mature. And yet, it left a mark that would follow them both for years to come. After the quiet yet earth-shattering end of her marriage to Keith Urban, Nicole Kidman found herself standing at a crossroads once again, not just as a woman who had loved and lost, but as someone determined to heal and rediscover herself. The $325 million divorce, though settled peacefully, left emotional scars that money could never mend. Yet for Nicole, the end of her marriage was not the end of her story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one that would test her strength, redefine her priorities, and remind the world why she has always been one of Hollywood's most resilient figures. In the months following the separation, Nicole withdrew from the public eye. She spent time with her children, focused on self-care, and quietly leaned on a small circle of trusted friends. Those close to her say that she channeled her pain into her craft, accepting challenging film roles that allowed her to express the emotions she could not put into words. Each performance after the divorce, from the haunting vulnerability of her dramatic roles to her quiet confidence in interviews, seemed to echo her real life journey of rediscovery and growth. Despite the speculation, Nicole never spoke ill of Keith. In fact, she maintained that she would always have love and respect for him, acknowledging that addiction is a lifelong battle and that not all love stories are meant to last forever. Her ability to speak with compassion rather than bitterness won her admiration from fans and colleagues alike. She understood that some relationships, no matter how passionate, are meant to teach lessons, not to last a lifetime. Keith, too, found his own path toward peace. While the divorce hit him hard, it also became a moment of reckoning, a chance to rebuild himself without the shadow of expectation or judgment. In interviews years later, he admitted that he learned humility and accountability through heartbreak, acknowledging that sometimes losing something precious forces you to confront the truths you've avoided for years. Meanwhile, Nicole began to focus more deeply on her family, her humanitarian work, and her personal happiness. She spoke openly about forgiveness, not just of others, but of herself. The woman who had once been defined by two high-profile marriages emerged as a symbol of quiet grace, proving that resilience doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from surviving it. As for the infamous cocaine clause, it became one of Hollywood's most talked about legal footnotes, a strange blend of caution and heartbreak. Some saw it as evidence of Nicole's wisdom. Others viewed it as a sign that her marriage had been doomed from the start. But to Nicole, it was simply part of her truth, a reminder that love can be complicated, and that protecting oneself does not mean the love was never real. Today, at 58, Nicole Kidman continues to thrive. She's built an empire not just of wealth, but of respect. A woman who has faced public scrutiny, private heartbreak, and personal doubt, yet continues to stand tall. Her story with Keith Urban remains one of Hollywood's most complex romances, filled with love, pain, and lessons about trust and redemption. In the end, the cocaine clause didn't define Nicole Kidman's life. It was merely a chapter in a much larger story, a story of a woman who refused to let her past dictate her future. For Nicole, the message has always been clear. No matter how heartbreaking the ending, the courage to start again is what truly defines strength.